We have officially wrapped up the first wave of NBA games, and a few games have already jumped out. Players who clearly outperformed their draft position, and a handful of free agents who look ready to contribute right away to their teams. Now, it's only been one game, don't get me wrong, so don't overreact just yet, but these guys looked comfortable in their positions and in their roles, and they should continue to produce moving forward. Let's take a look at these early standouts you should be watching and maybe grabbing for some of them before your league mates even have a chance to catch on. Welcome to Stu's Corner, your #1 destination for everything fantasy basketball. If you want to stay ahead of your league with weekly rankings, waiver pickups, and insider tips, make sure to hit the subscribe button down below and turn on the notifications for the channel so you never miss a drop. Now let's get into the video. Kicking things off, we have Ron Holland, the Pistons' top 5 pick from last year, and this might finally be the season that the investment pays off. In their game against the Bulls, Detroit's bench completely flipped the script. They were down big early, and it was the second unit that brought them all the way back and made the game competitive at the end, with Holland right in the middle of it. He looked confident, aggressive, and played with the kind of energy that immediately changes momentum. You can see why the team views him as that spark plug option alongside Karis LeVert and Isaiah Stewart. The role looks defined, like it's not going to change anytime soon. He comes in, pushes the pace, and creates offense when the starters start to stall. He's currently rostered in just about 2.5% of ESPN leagues, which means he's sitting on nearly every single waiver wire right now. And if he keeps producing like this, that number will not stay low for long. It's early, but this looks like the start of a consistent bench role that could quietly build fantasy value week by week. Next up, we have Grady Dick, and if you know, you know. He was a late season hero for a lot of fantasy teams last year, mine included, carrying a major value down the stretch when the Raptors finally unleashed him. Fast forward into this season, and it looks like he's picking up right where he left off, but this time off the bench. He opened up the year with a 21-point performance last night, showing the same shooting confidence and movement without the ball that made him a sneaky fantasy addition last year. His role seems locked in as the primary backup shooting guard, and he's the first in line to start if any injuries hit the rotation. He's currently sitting at just 10% rostered in ESPN leagues, and this is one of those early opportunities that slips by most managers. He's proven he can catch fire for weeks at a time once he's in a rhythm, and Toronto clearly trusts him enough to be that scoring punch off the bench. If you got a free spot, I recommend to grab him right now before his ownership spikes, and this could be another strong midseason run waiting to happen. Next up, we got the big Barlow, and easily this was the most surprising name on this list and probably the biggest risk reward pickup so far. He's not a household name. He is 100% not a hold. Once you pick him up, you want to be streaming him. But he's officially starting at the power forward position for the 76ers, with Paul George and Watford being out right now. And that alone makes him worth keeping an eye on for now. With Embiid still shaking off the rust and clearly limited in mobility, Barlow is going to have extra chances to crash the boards and get those easy paint points. His value won't come from volume scoring at all because he's not going to have that many opportunities, but from pure efficiency. He has higher percentage looks, rebounds, and maybe some opportunistic defensive stats like blocks and steals. But right now, with Tyrese Maxey and VJ Edgecombe pretty much taking over the offense, he's not going to have that many points. He's only rostered in about 1% of ESPN leagues, which means you can still grab him almost anywhere. I would 100% treat him as a flyer, especially with Philly's next game coming on a Saturday. He's not really a must add for this week, but if Paul George's injuries persist and Embiid doesn't get back into form, Barlow could be a sneaky flyer for the time being until these things start to come back. If you need a one-game boost or a short-term death play, Barlow could quietly deliver solid value. Just don't get locked in on the long term yet, or maybe at all, but this one's worth playing with caution. Next, we have Ryan Kalkbrenner. This is the rookie out of Creighton, and unless you're a Hornets fan, I'm pretty sure you've never really heard of this kid until right now, but he's officially on my radar. In his first NBA game, he came out and delivered a double-double right out of the gate, and that's impressive for anyone, especially a rookie. But for category leagues, this guy is a must add. There's no but around it. He helps with rebounds and field goal percentage, and you want him on your team. He was relentless on the glass and a big part of why Charlotte dominated the boards in their opening game. What stood out most was how comfortable he looked doing the dirty work, boxing out, fighting for position, and finishing strong inside. He's currently only rostered about in 5% of ESPN leagues, so there's still time to grab him before people start to catch on. And if you're in a competitive points league that values efficiency, this could be one of those sneaky early season pickups that quietly becomes a reliable rotation piece all year and for trades. And now we have another rookie. The rookies went crazy last night. Coward out of Washington State. And while the box score might not blow you away at first glance, 14 points, not that big of a deal, but the impact that he had on the game will definitely change that tune. He finished the game with 14 points and like 4 or 5 boards, but what really stands out is that he had a plus 14 plus minus, and the fact that he logged the second most minutes off the bench as a rookie in his first game. That's not random. That's a huge amount of trust from the coaching staff. I'm not expecting him to shoot 100% every single night. That's almost literally impossible, but his role already looks defined in Memphis. He's coming in, bringing energy, spacing the floor, and making smart plays that keep him on the court. For a rookie, that's all you can ask for early on. He's currently rostered in only 1% of ESPN leagues, which makes him another perfect low risk, high upside add. If he continues to carve out this kind of steady rotation spot, the stats will follow naturally. For deeper leagues and managers who are looking to get ahead of the trends, Coward's one of those names that you stash before everyone else catches on. Next up is his teammate Jalen Wells, and I honestly don't have too much to say about Jalen Wells. He is a definition of a 3-point specialist and a perfect fit for category leagues. He took 8 shots last night, and every single one of those was from deep. That tells you exactly what his role is going to be in Memphis. He is pure perimeter spacing. If you need help in threes, he's the kind of player who can quietly swing in a week where he gets hot and all of a sudden you're dominating your opponent in threes. For points leagues, I don't recommend picking him up that much, honestly, unless he's doing more. But right now, it just looks like threes, and threes can only carry you so far. He's only rostered in 6% of ESPN leagues, so this is the time to go grab him before the numbers start to climb. And we have another rookie to talk about. And this time it's from the University of Florida, the national champs, and that's Walter Clayton Jr. If you watched him in college, you already know what kind of mortar this guy has. That same intensity showed up in the first NBA game, and he played hard on every single possession. He attacks the glass, he defends multiple positions, and doesn't really make many negative plays. Even though he shot poorly in the opener, the effort and activity were all there. He's the kind of player who fills out the box score with rebounds, assists, steals, blocks, even when his shot isn't falling. With Collier going down to injury, Clayton's in a prime position to step up and get an extended run at playing time. These two were already battling for minutes during the camp, and now Clayton has a clear path to prove himself and potentially lock in the bigger role. He's currently rostered in only 5% of ESPN leagues, which makes him a great early flyer. If he continues to play with this level of energy and keeps getting consistent minutes, he could easily become one of those do-it-all fantasy glue guys that you want on your team this year. And now we have the big guy, Keyshawn George. Keyshawn George came into the year with already a little bit of some buzz around his name, but most people stayed away from him because the Wizards were projected to be one of the worst teams in the league, and honestly, I don't blame people for staying away from him. I drafted him though in the 13th round this year, and on opening night, I was rewarded. He completely flipped that narrative. He dropped 21 points and finished just 1 rebound shy of a double-double, looking like one of the few bright spots on the struggling team. What stood out the most was how comfortable he looked on the court. He was confident with the ball, creating his own shot, and showing versatility on both ends of the court. It's clear the Wizards are going to lean into developing the young core at some point throughout the season since they got rid of all the vets, and George is going to be right at the center of that shift. His minutes and usage should only climb as the season goes on, and right now he's rostered in just 18% of ESPN leagues, but that number is already rising. As you can see, it's already up 10%. If he's still sitting on your waiver wire, please go get him right now. He's shaping up to be one of those early season breakout players who can turn into a long-term fantasy starter. Ryan Dunn is going to be another flyer option like Barlow. Dunn is not going to light up the scoreboard like Keyshawn George, but he's a definition of a stat sheet filler. The Suns ran a small ball lineup last night, which gave him extra opportunities across multiple categories like rebounds, assists, and defensive stats. That said, those numbers might be inflated because of the rotation that they used. For category leagues, I do think he's worth monitoring closely. I don't want to say go ahead and add him now, but I would look into him just to see the potential. Players who can chip in a bit of everything without hurting percentages are always valuable pieces in category leagues, but for points leagues, I'd hold off 100%. I wouldn't even really look into adding him. With Booker and Brooks already commanding heavy usage and Green expected to return soon to the Suns, Dunn's offensive ceiling is going to be 100% limited. So in short, he's a very solid glue guy for category leagues, but for production for points, it's just not worth it. I would stay away from him. And the last one on the list is going to be Bryce Sensabaugh. And Bryce entered this season with big expectations as one of Utah's primary scoring options. And on opening night, he lived up to the hype. In just 23 minutes, he put up 13 shots and helped lead the Jazz to a blowout win over the Clippers. He looked aggressive and confident, and clearly showing the coaching staff trusts him enough to create his own offense within the flow of the game. If Bryce can keep this level of involvement, he's going to be a must roster player moving forward. The shot volume alone makes him fantasy relevant. The only reason to hold off for him now is that the Utah Jazz for the rest of this week, they only have one more game. and that's terrible if you're in a tight matchup. So if you're able to wait and then pick him up on that Saturday, I would do that. But if someone else picks him up and they're willing to take the L this week, then you're gonna miss out on the opportunity. So that is going to be my list of 10 players that you should be adding to your rosters right now, or at least to your watch list before your league mates catch on and grab them first. Day one stats can always be a little bit volatile, but every single season, that first wave of games reveals a few hidden gems that were missed during the draft process, and you don't want to miss out on them. That's going to be all for me today. Thanks for hanging out in the corner. Peace out. I'll see you in the next one.